Welcome back to the Remote No Pressure podcast. Bill.
Well, hello.
And or listeners.
And both, hopefully.
And or listeners.
I guess that'd be me and... Now I'm confused.
Sometimes I just...
From the top, welcome...
Sometimes I just say and or, just to be a dork, you know? Bill and or guests.
It's 2020, you gotta be PC.
That's why the word y'all has always been like my go-to. I'm from Texas, so I could use it. But I worked in corporate America, and I worked in a bank, and it was very HR focused.
Yes.
You know? So I don't want to say, hey, girls, hey, ladies. I would always say...
Got to watch the pronouns.
The guys would get mad when I call them ladies. No, but I would just say, hey, y'all. And that way, like, there's no gender there. It is what it is.
Yep.
You would think more people would be adopting the word y'all as we progress, you know?
And I do the northern term where I just say, hey, all.
Hey, all.
I like when I shoot out emails to my department. I've got one girl, so I just say, hey, all.
Hey, all. Yeah. Instead of saying, hey, y'all, have you ever thought of using y'all, Y''ALL?
In slang? Just speech, I will.
It is a slang word.
Yeah. Yep.
It's not a real word, but it is nice to have. Bill, we got a lot of stuff going on.
Oh, boy.
I'm very, very excited. The hardest part is remembering everything because it's a lot. We've got some awesome events coming up. We've got 3 live events. 3, Bill.
What?
Yes. So 3 live events. It's the last Thursday of March. I think it's March the 26th or 28th. We have a fly fishing night. And
where's that at?
Well, it's either going to be at our office space in Holland, Michigan, which is a huge space. It's not like just a tiny little office space. It's a great place for this. Or a brewery, So we're waiting to hear back. Hopefully today.
Wait, we have our own brewery too.
Well, I've been meaning to talk.
Our brewery.
I've been meaning to talk to you about this, Bill. I'm going to need some money because we're going in for a brewery together.
Oh man.
No, but we'll have that updated soon. Also, we're going to be at Orvis in Grand Rapids again.
Awesome.
It's
been a couple years.
April the 18th for their spring kickoff there with Trent and those guys, Trent and Nick. They invited us in to do a live podcast.
Do a love podcast.
A love podcast. We need Chris Barclay's sultry voice. No, but we're going to be doing a live podcast at Orvis in Grand Rapids, and we're going to do a little music from songs about fly fishing. So just a couple songs on there. So that's going to be amazing. The last Thursday in March of this month, Matt Bennett from Connected Guide. He's been on here before. He's a Northern Michigan guide. He has donated to our group one fly fishing trip. So we're going to be giving that away at the event.
Now, are we out of the
drawing?
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Oh.
But if we're nice, he'll probably take us fishing.
Oh, thanks.
But Matt from Connected Guide Service, he's donated a fly fishing trip, a guided trip for smallmouth. He's going to be there demonstrating his fly called, get this, butt stuff.
You told me that last week and I still cracked up.
And you're still laughing like a little kid. I swear to God, we're just like 12-year-old kids.
I'm like a middle schooler. I swear I'm like a middle schooler.
When it comes to butt stuff, I'm just like a 12-year-old kid.
When it comes to butt stuff, I always crack up.
God, I'm surprised anyone ever listens to this podcast. No, but in all seriousness, though, we've got Matt Bennett. This is gonna be an awesome event. This is the last Thursday of March, so get it on your calendars. We've got a free giveaway, a free guided fly trip. You're gonna learn how to tie this fly called butt stuff, and it is a smallie killer. It's a smallmouth killer. So if you're a smallmouth guy, you need to come out, check it out. Also, Kaz is gonna be there.
Awesome.
He's donated some stuff to give away from Umpqua. I hope I pronounced that right.
I think you did.
Feather Merchants. And he's going to have a TFO booth there.
Very cool.
We're not done yet.
Wait, what?
Wait, there's more. Grand Valley Fly Fishers, the fly fishing club here in town. Mr. Gary Lindquist, I think he's the head captain there, the president of Grand Valley Fly Tires, has donated enough material to tie at least 20 flies.
Holy cow.
So maybe you've thought about tying and you don't know and you don't have a vise and you don't want to go all in. This is a great time for you to come out, have some local. We're going to have some beer there. We're going to have some friends. We're going to have a lot of people there. We're going to have, Matt Peister. We're going to have Kaz. We're going to have Wild Bill. You're going to have me. We're going to have maybe some other people. John Osborne, who's been on the show, he's probably going to be coming out to this. We've got a great lineup of RMP guests.
Wow.
And you thought May was going to be great.
May is going to be great.
May is going to be amazing. But March is going to be awesome because we just have a good turnout and there's a chance for you to win some really cool stuff. So that's going on in March. In April, we have a live podcast with an Orvis endorsed guide. That will be named soon. I'm waiting on Trent to get back to me on that.
Awesome.
But that's going to be a live podcast at Orvis and a little music off my album, Songs About Fly Fishing.
Wow.
Spring
is filling up.
Dude, not only that, we got more Sasquatch the decals in the mail on the way. And then I got, some of you remember the old remote no pressure trout die cut sticker, not the oval one, but they're really sweet. I got those coming. Got some more CDs coming. We got a lot of stuff cooking.
Wow.
Dude.
But wait, there's more.
I think that's it.
Oh, that's it. Sorry.
but the Orvis thing is going to be great. The thing in March is going to be great. So the thing in March will be either in Holland. I'm waiting on the exact venue. We're waiting to tie that down. You will not want to miss it.
Will the house band be playing?
Fecal Discharge. They've been on tour. I have to talk to their manager, see if they can show up or not.
Wow.
They sold out of their lime green shirts. You realize we're gonna have to make some fecal matter shirts or fecal discharge shirts. Oh, it goes back to the old joke. Fecal matters. Remember the old joke?
Was that last year?
I don't remember, dude. It was like it's something
I
that's actually been stuck in my head for a long time, like a public service announcement,
go to a doctor for that.
Or like after school, like a constipation awareness video, like a cartoon. God, this is awful. Okay, so we've got a lot of stuff going on. I'm very excited about it. Now, I get emails a lot from people. This is our third season, Bill.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, special thanks to Sandhill Coffee. If you're there, thank you. They've signed up to be a sponsor for the second quarter for this next quarter as well.
Oh, very cool.
Very cool. So if you go online and you're looking at us on the YouTube channel, check out Sandhill Coffee. Mm-hmm. Also, let me just take a minute. Bill, do you mind if I just take a minute?
Yeah, I guess.
And go. 58 seconds. No. I get emails quite a bit from people, like, how do you afford to keep this thing going? I'm not NPR. I'm not going to give you a free tote bag, with a donation of $30 or more, nothing like that. But I want to explain to people how it works. Sponsorships are huge for us. It's important. So maybe you have a business or maybe you are doing something online or whatever and you're like, man, I'd really like to get behind these guys because they have so much momentum. Shoot me an email. Because that's what we do. That's how we keep this thing online. This is our third season. Yep. It's actually starting to produce some revenue, and it's really cool to see people get behind what we're doing.
That's right.
Another way, maybe you don't have a business. Maybe, and I've never done this before on our podcast, so don't hate me for this, but maybe you don't have a business.
Sellouts.
Yeah. Maybe you don't have a business. Maybe you're just like, Jeff, I don't know. There's a couple of ways you can support us. You could get a couple decals that are for sale on our website at remotenopressure.com. That always helps. But also subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And subscribe to Instagram.
Yep.
Now, I know me and Bill mock it a lot, and we had a whole bit last week about stroking our ego. But the reality of it is the way it works is when we have enough subscribers, we need 10,000 on Instagram and we need a minimum of 1,000 on YouTube, right? YouTube is a new channel for us this season. Yeah. I think we only have like 60 subscribers right
59.
now. 59.
Well, maybe 60 by the time this comes out. We'll see.
Maybe you only occasionally listen on YouTube. Subscribe to it. Yeah. Go to the button there. There's a button on YouTube where you can hit subscribe, and we would greatly appreciate that.
Yeah.
So that's how it works. That's how it works. See, I don't like the whole
Patreon thing?
Patreon thing.
Yeah.
Like when people give you money, they need something in return.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what I like. I don't like saying, give us $5 a month for specific content.
But if you want to.
If you want to, just buy a couple stickers every month and give them to your friends, you know?
Hey, that's a good idea. Or buff.
Or a buff. We have the $5 buff that is guaranteed to keep off any Sasquatch.
Or your money back.
Or your money back. 100% money back guarantee.
If you get attacked by a Bigfoot, this will save your life. I mean, even if you have a suspicion there's a Bigfoot near you, pop this puppy on. You're safe.
That's what I love about this particular buff, is that I'm going to guarantee you, I'll give you 100% money back guarantee if you are attacked by, and there has to be some clear video. Heck, if it's a guy in a costume attacking you, I will give you your money back. I don't care. It's $5. But I'm telling you.
Might have to have him on the show.
We will have to have him on the show. That would be absolutely hilarious. I tell you what, if you make a video of your friend in a Sasquatch and it looks actually kind of real, I'm willing to give you both a free Sasquatch decal. Speaking of decals, we gave a few away this week. Special thanks to Ryan Enns, who gave us an awesome shout out on the YouTubes. You guys don't want YouTube comments, just podcast reviews? And then he said, great jobs, guys. Listen to the end. And remember at the very end, we're like, no one's listening.
Yeah, we always do that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then we had another review come in from Mr. Todd Gray out of Denton as well. So I really appreciate all the reviews that came in. We're going to be sending those decals out to you guys. And I tell you what, we're going to do it again this week. If you leave some reviews, shoot me an email, and I will send you a free decal. It's that easy.
Awesome.
Because here's the deal, though. Because whenever we ask reviews, I'll ask you to help us out with all this stuff. Even if you just subscribe to us, you go to Instagram and do your thing. We're not saying that because we want to be cool, but it helps us monetize what we're doing.
Yeah, it helps us.
It helps us, and it's not. We want this thing to be successful because Bill and I work our tails off, and we really believe that we have something special here.
And we want to be YouTube stars.
Well, I didn't want to say that. No, not at all. We really genuinely love what we do.
Yeah,
and we feel we add a lot of value to the fly fishing community and the community in general. And we want the show must go on.
Yes.
So that's my spiel. I've never made a spiel like that before.
That's a good spiel.
That is the spiel. But I don't do that very often. Mm-hmm. I don't like doing that because I just feel like a
salesman.
And I don't know. The thing is though, it is something great, and we offer people a lot of cool stuff. So it's not like I'm selling you something that you don't already have experience with.
Yeah.
So this week on the Remote No Pressure podcast, because we're getting past the 13-minute mark on the intro.
Wow.
So we'll avoid the another news segment. This week on the Remote No Pressure podcast, you like that pregnant pause? Mm-hmm. It's because I forgot what I was going to say. It wasn't because that was like a trickery. This week on the Remote No Pressure podcast, we have Mr. Matt Bennett. He is a fly tyer out of Texas, friends with Aaron Reed. Brandon Bales actually referred him. We're doing a little series here on fly tyers of Instagram, talking about fly tying, really getting into some more specifics of that. What's the story behind the flies? And we also have this big thing coming up in March where we're going to be learning how to tie a cool smallmouth fly.
Yeah.
So we're really digging into that, and we're very excited about that. So welcome to the podcast. Let's light the fire. Today on the Remote No Pressure podcast, we are continuing our series on fly tyers of Instagram, and today we've had Brandon Bales on, and now we have Fly Geek Matt, Mr. Matt Bennett. Thanks for hanging out with us, Matt.
Sure, thanks for having me.
Now you own Fly Geek Custom Flies. You have a lot of different interests, especially as far as species with bass and the Texas Hill Country. Let me ask you a question. How did you get involved with fly fishing? I mean, that's a unique business that you have, but how did you get involved in fly fishing?
Like, how did I get started?
Yeah, was it something you grew up with, or?
I grew up in Southwest Louisiana. We have a cabin outside the Durango area in Colorado. So I was like rifling through some of the closets in the cabin, and I think it was my grandpa's old fiberglass fly rod that I found in the closet. So I was like, huh. So I went out and kind of played with it for a couple of days, and I think it had dry rotted because I cast, a few times, and eventually like it broke at the ferrule.
Oh, wow.
It was like an old Berkeley 7-weight fiberglass rod.
It wasn't. It wasn't one of Chris Barclay's.
No,
Fly rods.
I fished his rod, so
That's
no,
awesome.
it's definitely not his stuff.
That's awesome. So I'm sorry, I totally interrupted you there.
No problem.
So it broke in half. You just kept trying to figure this whole thing out, or?
Yeah, and I don't quite remember where it went from there. This was back like early high school. I remember my dad, bought me and my brother a Cortland outfit, kind of one of those all-in-one package deals. And, I just started kind of fishing them on farm ponds back home. And when we would go up to Colorado every summer, I would fish for trout up there, and not very successfully, but it was still fun.
Uh-huh.
And then, when I went to college, I kind of dropped it because I didn't have time, and moved down here to Austin back in 2009, I think. Found the local fly shop here, Living Waters Fly Fishing, and kind of got involved with them and picked it back up again. And that's kind of taken me where I am now.
Yeah, that's great, man. Living Waters gets a lot of shout outs on the podcast. They're a great shop. I've been down there. I was down there with Aaron Reed this past summer. Went into the fly shop there at Living Waters. It's a great shop, and they seem like they do a whole lot for the community.
They do, yeah. They have a lot of, they do a lot of free events on the weekends, a lot of educational stuff. I do a lot of tying and teaching up there too. And they have, I know Brandon, when he comes down, is doing some stuff. I know Aaron's doing a book launch party there, so they're really involved in the community for sure.
Yeah, so we're at Aaron Reed's on that Thursday. I think Brandon's going to be tying that Wednesday night there at Living Waters.
We do a tying night up there every Wednesday, and we have, a lot of times there's like 50 people up there.
That's crazy, man. So
it is.
So we've got for all those in the Austin area or who's flying in, Brandon Bales is going to be killing it Wednesday night at Living Waters Fly Shop, going to be tying, and then Aaron's doing that book release on the 9th there as well. So there's a lot of stuff going on there, and they're just really nice people. It's a really cool facility that they have there, and no, they did not pay me to say that, but I think they're an awesome outfit down there. How did you get into the tying side of things?
So kind of a similar story, that I've never been really a very artistic person. I feel like my little brother got all the artistic genes in the family. He's an architect now. And I can't even draw a straight line. So, that being able to kind of create and customize what I was fishing with is kind of what drew me to the tying side of things. I remember, back similar in high school, I got gifted a fly tying kit from Cabela's or Bass Pro or somewhere for Christmas by my grandparents, and didn't really pick it up until I took it up with us to our cabin in Colorado and started messing around with it. And I do remember the first fish I caught on a fly that I tied up there. It was this terrible looking parachute grasshopper pattern, and I tied the parachute post had a bucktail, and you can imagine how terrible that would look. Like, it was this bright pink bucktail, and it didn't really matter. The brook trout up there will eat anything, and I remember the first one I caught on there, and from then on I was kind of hooked.
Oh wow, yeah, it's definitely there's definitely an art to it. Like, I tie horribly. Like, I've caught fish on flies I've tied, but I don't have the patience. I don't have the. It's really hard for me. And some people, they're like, they'll pour them some whiskey. I know Accountant Phil, my buddy Accountant Phil ties, and he at the end of the day, he'll pour him some whiskey, and he'll sit at his fly tying desk, and after the kids go down and just kind of unwind. I just can't sit still, and that's the problem. Is that a common problem? Do you have to sit still, or are there some patterns that anyone could tie that doesn't take a long time, doesn't take a lot of artwork?
Yeah, there's there's a lot of different ways to kind of break up fly tying, and having some simple patterns that work really well, like clousers and woolly buggers and stuff like that, or even some more local patterns. Chris Johnson has a Brushy Creek streamer pattern that's like 3 materials and super effective. So there's absolutely some super simple patterns that you could tie, and a lot of people just tie those and they're comfortable just learning those, and that's all they kind of get into, So you don't have to kind of gravitate towards the more complicated, artistic side of fly tying. But, that's what started to appeal to me, I think.
Well, Brandon Bales sent me a few flies last week after he was on the show. And it was so intimidating because I'm like, these things look like a crawfish.
Yeah.
Just like a crawfish. There's different colors that I have and stuff, but I'm like, I don't know if I could ever tie something so beautiful. It's almost like you don't even want to fish it because it's like so perfect. It's like,
well, Brandon ties some awesome stuff, and if he sent you flies, I'm not going to offer to send you flies now because I don't want you to look at ours next to each other.
I was just like, how do you do this thing? It's amazing.
I have some of his too.
Well, in all fairness, he gave me your information, and because I was like, who are some of the other tires on Instagram that I should reach out to? And you were one of the first people he brought up. So he obviously has some mad respect for you.
Well, it goes both ways. I appreciate his work, and we talk a fair bit, about fly design, and that's the cool thing. I get down on social media a lot because it's so negative, but that's the cool thing about social media is it's connected me to so many people that I've never really met in person, like Brandon and some other people. Just kind of creating a community to bounce ideas off of and things like that. So that's, whenever I get down about social media and how negative it can be, it's a lot of fun to think about the other side of that.
Yeah, I think it's made a turn. I think a lot of people are using it. It's like a gun, right? You could use it for bad or you can use it for good. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of people that hate guns, and then there's some people that love them. They use them responsibly, and I think if we use it responsibly, social media, it's an awesome thing. It's like Brandon Bell said, when I'm coming down there, he's flying in, I'm flying in. We've got Brad Boone, we've got Chris Barclay is going to be there. All these people coming in, and like Brandon said, it's kind of like a reunion, and we've never even met each other. Yep,
absolutely. That's absolutely true. I've always looked forward to meeting some of the people that I feel like I know already because I talk to them on social media, but I'll hear their voice for the first time or see them in person for the first time and just realize that I've been talking to this guy for 2-3 years and never really met him until now, but I feel like I know him already.
Yeah, and it seems like a lot of people that fly fish, we got kind of similar personalities, kind of seeking out the same things, and I'm sure there's characters in there. I've fished with some people from the show that I that have emailed me, hey, we should fish together. And I'm like, after fishing with them, I would never fish with them again. But you can tell those people, you could sniff them out,
I remember the story you told about the guy who showed up and had pentagrams all over everything. Yeah. So I haven't run into that myself, but there's, I don't get much personal fishing time. So I'm pretty selective about who I fish with, but we should definitely go fish.
Yeah, for sure. Well, now I got a question for you though. You brought up fly design. What's that process? How do you design a fly? What is it what all goes into that whole process?
That could be a very long, detailed answer, and I could talk about that for like 3 days probably. But the short part of it is basically, all flies, there's not a whole lot that's new in fly tying. A lot of the same ideas get kind of rehashed, and a lot of my personal design comes from picking out effective patterns and just doing variation after variation of those until I land on something that ends up just kind of totally different from what it started out as, kind of customizing it to what I want it to be.
What are some of those flies that you've designed that have been extremely effective?
So I would say the lunch money is kind of my go-to streamer pattern that I'm known for. And that one came from Charlie Craven's Gonga streamer. I wanted something that rode hook up in the water. So I inverted the hook and, changed some materials out. This was back when Greg Senyo's laser dub kind of started making a big appearance in the fly tying world. So I kind of incorporated that and, ended up landing on something that's kind of the similar size, but just a little bit different, kind of customized to the fishing we do in the hill country.
And that's been effective, like with the Guadalupe bass and there on those streams there in the hill country. That lunch money is what it's called.
Yeah, lunch money, and it's weird because I designed it for here, but it's weird. Like it's available through Umpqua now, so you can find it at a lot of fly shops. But it's weird. I'll get messages on Instagram saying, "Hey, I caught my first pike on the fly with your lunch money," and there's guys fished them for snook and stuff, and it's cool to see everything that it catches that it wasn't necessarily designed for.
Yeah, so if someone steals it, essentially they stole your lunch money.
Basically, yeah. That's the whole idea behind the name is when the fish steal it, they stole my lunch money.
That's a great name, man. Now, here's a question. Me being the cynic that I am, I'm a very cynical person, which is a blessing and a curse, more of a curse than a blessing. But what percentage of strikes on flies are instinct versus strategy? Like, it looked a lot like a crayfish or a crawfish. It looked a lot, because you're from Louisiana, so we'll call it a crawfish. It looked a lot like a crawfish, so I'm going to eat it. Or the fish is just instinct, quick bite. They're hungry and something moved and they bit it. Is that like a 50-50 ratio, or the more it looks like the actual crawfish, the more fish you catch? I mean, what is that?
Man, there's I think it varies. I would say there's three big aspects in fly design, and it's profile, motion, and color.
Profile, motion, and color.
Yeah. And I would say profile, it needs to look like what you're trying to imitate. Like if you put like a bright light behind it, you would get that black kind of silhouette shape of whatever you're trying to imitate. Motion is kind of how it moves or how it acts in the water. And then color, I would probably say, is the least important of those, but still an important part of it. So reactionary bites, I think, are triggered by motion and color more, where it triggers a reaction from the fish versus, we think about trout being really selective sometimes in what they're eating, but bass and stuff can't. Bass and other warm water species can too. So if you're approaching, kind of a natural fly design approach where you're trying to imitate, a crawfish like Brandon's hatchling crawl, or something like that, to have that food looking profile with a small crawfish that's not really a threat. It doesn't have the giant pinchers like some of the big crawfish that we have around here. But having something small like that has the right profile and acts correctly in the water, I think is more of a approach where the fish kind of respond to that.
Well, the reason I asked that too, Matt, is because like I fish for, I'm in the holy water, near the holy waters. I'm fishing trout and steelhead and salmon and all of that. But I also in the spring I fish a lot of like bluegill, sunfish, because there's ponds close to my house. And I fish dries, and it's just an absolute blast on a like a 3-weight. But my thing is like sometimes I wonder, it doesn't really matter what I throw at them. They're going to bite it because it's floating and it lands on top of the water, So that's why I asked that question, what's reactionary versus... And now, there's sometimes when fish may not be as aggressive, maybe the wintertime, things like that. Is there certain things like profile, color, and all that? Which one's most important when those fish are less aggressive?
The profile, for sure, I would think would be the most important thing when they're less aggressive. You mentioned bluegill, and did you guys, when you were here with Aaron, did y'all fish Brushy Creek here in town at all?
Yeah, we did actually.
Okay.
Yep.
So if you were to go out to Brushy Creek, say last week when it was about 40 degrees here, there were fish, rising in the current eating Trico mayflies.
Okay.
So you needed a size 22 mayfly, just like you would fish for trout, to be able to catch those bluegill because they weren't eating anything else.
Wow. Okay.
So if you turn around and when you guys come down in May, you throw just about anything out there and they'll eat that. So I think that it varies a lot depending on time of year and what's kind of hatching, and because there's not really anything else happening on the creek right now, so that's what they're eating.
Trico is a go-to, man, up here with the trout.
Yeah.
It's just such in my buddy account, Phil, I think that's what he caught his first trout on. And it was just like, holy cow, this is a really cool fly, but size 22, super small. And you think nothing's going to bite this thing, and it's so effective time after time up here if you get the right hatch,
Yeah, and we get some pretty prolific insect hatches down here. I found on Brushy we get a pretty good trico and a pretty good BWO hatch this time of year, where you are fishing kind of dry flies to the fish. Normally that you would leave your trout box at home most times when you go fish for bluegill, but having it in the wintertime down here really helps with catching more fish.
So what's kind of next for you? I know you work with Umpqua, right? And some of your flies are there, but kind of what are you working on right now? Are you working on any new patterns? I mean, what's kind of next for Matt?
There's a lot of ideas that I have kind of rolling around in my head. Since I tie full time, production tying, I'm cranking out a lot of flies. Recently I kind of launched my own kind of fly subscription service, just to kind of see how that's done, and it's done really well. So kind of continuing with it and keeping things fresh, with new patterns and bringing in some other tires maybe to partner along with on that. I have the beginnings of a book kind of in the works. I'm just kind of tying the patterns that I tie and fish a lot, kind of a tying instruction book. There's some more tying videos that I want to get out there. I'm a big fan of teaching. That's a lot of what I enjoy doing. So being able to teach other people, whether it be in person through, the fly tying nights and stuff that I help with, or, online kind of instructional stuff. I really want to be able to make some time to do more of that.
That's amazing. So how many hours a week are you at the bench then, Matt, if you're doing that full time?
Anywhere from 8 to 10 hours a day, usually. Probably at least 6 days a week. It takes a lot of flies to pay for a mortgage in downtown Austin.
I know. That does take a lot of flies, Have you seen more of for instance, I'm friends with the guy from the Grand Valley Fly Tires here in town, Gary Lindquist, right? And he's telling me, millennials, they don't tie, they buy. Are you seeing, I don't necessarily agree with that, because I'm seeing a lot more millennials wanting to tie. But are you seeing that? Are you seeing a trend like that, or people are more willing to just buy versus tie?
Well, I think there's a pretty significant time investment that goes along with learning to tie flies yourself. And I think people there's the people who kind of gravitate towards that side of things, but then there's the people who just don't have an interest in that and they would rather buy the flies. But I also have, other tires who are kind of getting into tying. They want, and I'm the same way. I have a box of, model flies that I keep around. Like they want a pattern by the originator to see how it's supposed to be done correctly. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So there's a lot of people who will buy, a couple different flies just to have some on hand. Like that's what I have from Brandon. Like I have some of his flies and I don't want to fish them. Like I want to, when I go to tie some hatchling craws for me to fish, I want to have an actual model from him there. So I know how it's supposed to be designed.
What did you go to college for, Matt?
I went to Baylor and majored in film and digital media. So I don't really use it very much, but right. It comes in handy sometimes when, I think that's, talking about doing fly tying videos and stuff like that. Like some of that is starting to come back to me a little bit, but yeah, not getting used more often than not.
That's pretty amazing, man. Baylor is a very good school, very, very expensive school as well. So it's good to see that you're putting your good education to use there.
My parents probably will roll their eyes a little bit if they listen to this, but everything kind of works out how it's supposed to.
Dude, I'm telling you, if I spent a fortune for them to go to college and they graduated and they were happy and self-sustaining, and not living in my basement, dude, I'd be so happy. I don't care.
Sure, that's like every parent's dream for their kids, right?
Yeah.
Be happy, be successful. Don't live in my house.
Don't live in my house. Yeah. I used to be a retirement planner back in the day, and I used to tell people the greatest gift you can give your children is not to have to move in with them. And it goes it goes both ways. When you're planning for retirement, like that's the best gift is being self-sustaining, but also being happy. I want my kids to be happy. So even though they went to a great school or whatever, if they're happy and they're self-sustaining, we're all good, man.
Right. Yeah. And there's this job, I put job in kind of quotation marks. It is a job, but it is a hobby that I also enjoy too. Just like anything else, I'm sure Chris could talk about how he doesn't want to get up and build rods every single day of the week. I don't want to get up and tie flies necessarily every day, but I feel very fortunate to have the opportunity to do so.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. That's great. How many stores carry your flies?
Probably 6 to 10 that I supply personally. Through Umpqua is going to be a lot more. I'm trying to kind of pull back on the shops that I tie for, because the retail business that I've kind of started to foster has really kind of exploded. So I don't have as much time to tie for shops. I do a lot of local stuff for people fishing here, but I also get people who are like, hey, I'm going down to the Amazon for peacock bass and I want this and this, or tying those kind of orders for stuff that I've never fished for is a fun challenge and something I enjoy doing a lot.
Yeah, that's almost the exact same thing that Brandon said. When he gets those custom orders, people are going to go fish in the salt and things like that. Like that's what he loves doing most. Just kind of breaking it up. I'm sure, just the monotony.
It does, yeah. It breaks it up, and it's not you're not tying the same flies over and over always, but having the ability to get a little bit more creative a lot of times is a lot more fun for me, just to be able to think differently about that kind of tying, because there's production mode for me, and then there's kind of R&D mode, and there's creative mode, and there's a lot of different ways that I tie.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. It is. It's an art form. There's the whole process behind it, because I'm a songwriter. That's the art that I do. And so creating a song or creating music is the same thing. There's like different components, to it. And you start
Absolutely.
You start with this conception, and sometimes, I drive a lot for work and stuff. So I'm in the car for hours and I got this idea and I'm trying to communicate this and, how can I do that? And then there's the actual process of doing it. And then there's like the what is it called? Very structured songwriting time that, that's productive. And you know what I mean? It's the same. Art is art. I think every artist can relate to that,
Well, and I see a lot with new tires, especially getting super hyper focused on the exact recipe that whatever they're tying calls for. And I think that's something that every kind of tire goes through when they start tying. I know I was that way, but just like you said, it's kind of equatable to the music industry, in that once you kind of learn how things go, and I'm not a musician, so I don't understand any of your world, but like once you get the basics down and you understand kind of and develop your own style, you're free to go from there to the like creative mode where you, in the fly tying world, you understand which materials you can sub for which, or which thing will give you this action versus this action, and things like that.
That's great, man. That's you're exactly right. Yeah, it's like both my kids, one's 7, one's 10. They both play piano, And I'm like, you can play whatever instrument you want, but you have to start on piano because that's like that's like the language, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably
learn to read your music, all that stuff.
Right. And then after that, you just can, okay, well, I could sub, like you're saying, sub this in for that. And, you know, but you have to speak the language. You know, you got to start out with the woolly booger, you know.
Yep.
Of course, that's what I tie mostly. But, you know,
well, that's because they work, right?
They work. You know, don't hate me, people. That's just how it goes, you know? And I can tie a couple others, but it's just so bad. I'll be honest with you, Matt. It's just embarrassing. Some people are like, why don't you post more fly pictures? It's like, you don't want to see my flies. You know, you don't. The recipes, I got off the internet. You know, God, that's awful. I stole these recipes, you know, like there's nothing original about my stuff and it doesn't come out well. So, that's just how it is, you know? So,
well, and you know, I tell people, I teach a lot of new people and I tell them, they tie their first fly. I'm like, all right, save that fly. Don't overfish it. And then come back in a year and compare what you're tying, or even 6 months, compare what you're tying then to your first fly. And you'll feel very good about yourself.
yeah.
So I wish I had taken my own advice, and I wish I still had some of my first flies, but I still remember that dang parachute hopper I tied with bucktail for the post, and that trout I caught. Like, it's forever ingrained in my head about how terrible it is.
That's awesome, dude. What other hobbies do you have outside of fly tying and fishing? Do you do anything else, or is that pretty much your? Yeah,
that's a lot of what I do. You know, I'm there's a lot of stuff that I want to learn. Like that's kind of my philosophy on things, and what keeps me excited is learning new things. So I've, you know, kind of picked up gardening a little bit. I have a good friend who's a woodworker. That's another thing that I would love to learn that I just don't have time for right now. You know, fly tying is kind of an all-consuming thing for me. So that's basically what I do. I have to force myself to go fishing now just because I'm always at the vise. As sad as that sounds.
Yeah, well, you know, life happens, right? And like you got to work, right. You got to hustle, and like with me, with my kids and everything else, it's hard for me to find enough time on the water, and there's never enough time. But I think you appreciate it more when you do get to go, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, you know, I had a day, I think, was it last week? Yeah. So we had a big show down here called Trout Fest, and Pat Dorsey is a good friend and mentor of mine. So me and my buddy Chris took him out on the Guadalupe fishing for rainbow trout, and you know, they both like killed it, and I, you know, broke off like 10 fish. So it was one of those days where I was like, I'm just gonna sit here and watch you guys fish, because my fly box has like 3 nymphs left in it now.
Well, it's funny because I was down there in Austin. We were fishing Brushy Creek, and I was fishing with Aaron. And he was catching fish. I was catching fish, some Guadalupe bass and stuff. But there was like a Rio right in front of me. I wanted to catch a Rio because I've never caught one before, you know. And there was one like right in front of me. And dude, I probably threw 4 different patterns on this thing, and it was not hitting anything. And I'm like putting the fly right in front of his face, and it was a nice size Rio. I was like, oh my gosh, it's so frustrating. I think Aaron caught 2 Rios that day. I just wanted to catch one because I'm all the way from Michigan. I've never caught a Rio before, you know, but sometimes you win and sometimes you don't, you know.
That's so that's the fun. Rios can be super funny. And I actually designed a fly specifically to catch Rios called the Rio Getter.
Oh, wow.
And when you come down here, I'll hand you a handful to make sure you can catch them, because they usually work. And it's more about having something small enough. Most people are fishing flies to them way too big. Like I'm fishing size 14s and stuff to them because they have a pretty small mouth. Something small and dark that doesn't have a whole lot of long features to it, because what they'll tend to do is if you drop a fly in front of them, kind of the area that they're kind of hanging out in, a lot of times what they'll do, if you have like a long marabou tail or something on the fly or long rubber legs, they'll come over and pick the fly up by that long piece and go drop it like 3 feet away.
Wow.
They just don't want it hanging out by them.
Right. Yeah, just kind of clean it off their area.
Yep.
Yeah, that's how salmon do a lot in the fall. They just are trying to clean their beds off, you know. Mm-hmm. Just trying to keep debris out. And if you don't know what that hit feels like, then you're gonna miss the fish.
Right.
Well, hey, Matt, I really appreciate you hanging out with me today. If someone wanted to find out more about your flies, where would they go? I mean, we're going to share all these links in all of our show notes and things like that. But where would they go to find out more about you, Matt?
I have a website. It's just flygeek.net that I have most of my kind of basic flies on that people can order from there. A lot of the custom stuff that I do and conversations happen on my Instagram, which is just at flygeekmatt.
Okay, we'll be sure to include all of that in the show notes. Thank you again. You're coming out, right, to see the book launch party, right, at Mesquite Creek?
I'll probably be at everything that's that weekend. So,
all right, dude.
Y'all will be ready to get rid of me by the time you leave.
That's awesome, man. I'm so excited. I'm so glad you took time with us to hang out and to be on the show. And we'll put all those links in the show notes there. So be sure to check that out, everyone. And thanks again, Matt. Have a great day, man.
Thanks.
Well, Bill, you know, I've talked to Hold. Thanks for coming. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Always my pleasure. Yep.
I got to say that. I got to say thanks to everyone for listening.
Yeah.
Here's the deal, Bill. Hold and Osmus out of Iowa sent me a thing saying, anyone can tie flies, and I'm a really, really bad fly tire.
Same. I've never even tried it.
You don't tie, so maybe
I go out of my way to get shoes without strings on them.
So maybe this event in March will help us. Will help us with that. Maybe going to this event with Matt Peiser with this butt stuff fly is going to be the beginning of a beautiful thing.
Might be. It might just be. It might make us better people.
We may need to film how ridiculous we look.
What are we wearing?
Well, I'm not wearing anything other than my tidy whities.
Whoa. You mean
Just
right
kidding.
now? Better tune into the YouTube channel.
I don't know. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. No, but thank you guys very much for everything that you do, listening every week, leaving reviews. Again, leave us a review. Send me a message. The next 5, we'll do another 5 this week. If you leave us a review, I'll send you a decal. Thank you all so much for all that you do. Thanks for listening, Bill. Unbelievable co-host. I couldn't do this thing without you. You're amazing.
Go on.
Keep going. Keep going.
Oh, there's my ego.
Oh, there we go. Well, until next time, go fishing.